That's okay. YouTube's gonna get it. Hey, we're live. Perfect.
We're live, right? Mid-sip,
Ri-
my
mi-
extremely fancy coffee.
What are you drinking over there? Is that kombucha?
No, this
You
is
don't
this
you don't
is
drink the kombucha?
I do not. This is decaf
Mm.
from Pete's Coffee, and I'm making it in the most
Pizza's
Pete's
legit.
is good. I'm making it in the most complicated brewing method that I could find for the home, which is a combination of it's a
Not
completely
you. You don't
manual
like to
device.
overcomplicate things.
I do. Especially when it comes to coffee, because it's one of the few rituals that you get. It's like
All
when
right,
you
walk us through your process.
well, so so you first heat up the water in its own thing. You measure out the coffee into this special container. You tamp it down using this tool. Then you put a reservoir on top of it, and then a receptacle below. You pour the boiling water in on top of the reservoir, and then close over it with this air pump. So then it creates a vacuum. So you get a little bit of water come down and steeps the coffee that's in there, but nothing comes out. Like just a few drips come out into the receptacle. You let it steep for 2 minutes, and then you pump the top in order to create air pressure, positive air pressure inside the thing, which will then push the rest of the water through the coffee grounds like an espresso, like you're manually pulling an espresso. And you wind up with basically like a triple espresso, like super, super concentrated triple espresso.
Sounds delicious.
Since it's decaf, then there's no caffeine, but just really powerful flavor. So then you basically dilute it with that hot water that you just had 1-to-1. Then I add a little bit of flavored creamer because I'm kind of disgusting.
Because you're a girl.
Right?
Well, I'm not going anywhere. I'm still listening to you. I'm trying to get my fan on.
So it's just it's like a very complicated. It made me the reason I started doing this is because I'm a big fan of the AeroPress.
Snow on the ground, like literal snow on the ground.
There's snowing out there?
It was yesterday morning. And so we had a cold snap, but so we toasted it up inside. But like today, it's starting to heat back up, and I'm like, I need my ceiling fan on. I think it's a little warm in here. How do we unzip this here?
Oh my goodness! No, but it's I kind of got into the whole coffee thing for a while, and I had one of those super automatic espresso machines where you put the coffee beans in and the water, and then it grinds it, tamps it, measures it. Right, and you get like actual espresso at home, touch of the button. But I think if I always enjoyed using the AeroPress more because it was just so manual. There's so many things that you could perfect about it.
Now, is that the one that's that manual plastic one, right? Like I think I bought one of those to go the camping version. It's like self-contained or whatever. Same thing, right?
So this is a different one. So that the AeroPress is even more manual. Because the AeroPress, it doesn't just have like whatever pumps of air pressure you put in. You're manually pushing the water through. So it's like however much pressure you want to use or not.
I had to use these guns on it.
All of that pressure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I had to apply some pressure.
Like today, if I was going to buy a new coffee machine, because we're like, oh, we should get a new one, for upstairs.
Yeah. What would you get? You're an aficionado. People want to know this stuff.
Yeah, I would get, because now you can actually buy relatively inexpensive manual espresso machines. So like ones where you'd have a lever that you pull and you can pull the shot exactly the way you'd want to. But
you're not concerned about your counter space, I guess. So like people that live in New York that may watch this, like what would you recommend they get? Like just a French press,
French press is good once you figure out how to do it. Like
I love French press. I don't know how to do it, but when somebody does it for me, I love it.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, so the two tricks to it. Number one is, of course, the coarse grind. You don't want it too fine, and then you also need to heat up the French press itself. So what people will often do is they'll put the coffee grounds in, they put the water in, and you push it through.
But, you mean the actual mechanism you need to heat up? Like
yes.
Like in a microwave? No, because it's metal, right?
Right.
So like in an oven?
So you boil your water.
Use a hair dryer?
No. Okay. You boil your water. You go ahead and pour it in, and you let
Okay.
that come up. You basically bring the whole thing up to temperature, including your metal grate or whatever. Then when it's nice and warm to the touch, you pour it out, then add the coffee, then add the water that you're actually going to brew. You stir
Mm.
it to where you get like a nice swirl pattern, and then you put the lid over the top and you wait for 5 minutes, and then push the grounds through, and you're ready to go.
You're like there's a part of you that's like Japanese, I think. It's like just the attention to detail. It is. It's amazing. It's like you do this, you do that, but not too much, a little bit like this, and you'll know that it's right because it'll look like
Yeah,
peppermint.
it's
And
like
yeah,
you only want to do 2 twists with the spoon to get this.
not
If you're
three.
just swirling it, that's wrong. You just and then pull it out, and you get the vortex. And
It reminds me of Monty Python, the Holy Grail when they're talking about the holy hand grenade. You shall count to three. Uh, do not
5
progress
thou
to
shalt
four.
not count.
Five, thou shalt not count. Exactly.
Yes.
Oh my
So
gosh. Two is not enough. Dude, that's good,
yep.
man. Thank you for sharing that. I don't need a coffee machine right now. I have an espresso machine that
Wait,
is
the
the
old
best.
style or the new style?
The new style, the Virtuo, it's got like this the semicircle,
Mm-hmm.
and you just put I mean, the only problem with it
Make
is that
good coffee.
those little cups are like a dollar 40, I think,
Mm-hmm.
each. So every time like I
Mm-hmm.
make one, I'm like, this is a thing, but
Cheaper than Starbucks.
it is cheaper than Starbucks, and I love it because there's no gauges, there's no nothing. It's literally just you put it in there, you close it. There's one button, you push it, that's it. And depending on the type of coffee that you're making, there's like a barcode on the inside. The laser reads the barcode and it knows what to do. I'm
Yep.
like, this is exactly what I need. A coffee machine that's smarter than me. That's perfect.
Well, that one uses centrifugal force. So the reason it's circular like that is it spins in
Mm.
order to push the water through the grind. That's a really clever mechanism. So it's very
Well, so
different. It's like a Keurig is just drip,
right,
right? Just like a
but
mini
pressure,
drip bath.
but pressure.
Keurig,
Yeah, it creates. There's some pressure that goes on there.
very little,
Okay,
very very little.
because you can
Like
hear it.
yeah, no, the Nespresso is probably for all of the like single use pod systems. I think it's the best.
Oh,
I've yet to see anything that comes close to the new one,
exactly.
the Virtuo. I know it's patent encumbered. You have to buy first party, all that stuff. But
Right.
you want to put something in, push a button, and get a good cup of coffee. It's the best one.
There are people selling it. So this is a good segue into our one of our topics today is advances in technology. So there's people that are selling on Amazon these kits that you can use with the Nespresso Virtuo machine. That you basically they're reusable cups. So there's a little circular thing, and then there's a lid that you put on it, and then you can kind of crimp around, kind of like
Yeah,
if you bring home dinner from Maggiano's or something, get the little
yeah,
and yeah, and you pack it, you get a little kit, and so that you can use like regular coffee grounds and put it into this thing, and save you a lot of money, and I'm like, dude, if I was going to go do all that work, I would learn how to make the coffee, like myself. That's too much work.
well, so think about it. Think about it the way someone might do like a meal prep. So it's like, okay, if I'm gonna make some
Perfect example.
like I'm gonna make a pork chop. It's like, well, why don't I make 5 of them, and then they're just ready to rock. I just pull one out of the refrigerator and go. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna make some of the coffee things this afternoon. You make 7 or 8 of them, and then you put them in the little holder, and then you have the convenience of hitting the button.
Yeah.
Like this one took me 12 minutes start to finish.
Oh, see, that's a long time. I mean, I could drink 12 cups of coffee in that time.
Well, I mean, it's like the reason that you want the Nespresso is basically so that you don't have to do that. You put it in and hit the button. It
Exactly.
heats it up almost instantly. Oh, we have a comment from Lisa. Yes, I mean, the Nespresso is just better. I mean, if you can afford it, I know you have to like look down on the pores whenever you hit the button, but then Nespresso is totally worth it.
You have to look down on the yeah. But I just love the cream, dude. I mean, that layer of cream on the top. It's just so great, and it's totally worth it. It's like, I used to buy a box of like 100 Yeah, Joseph, he knows. I used to buy a box of like 100 of these Keurig K cups, like from Amazon. It was like $40 or something like that. And now, I'll spend the same amount of money to buy 30 Nespressos. So like, whatever it is, 3 times as much, I guess. But
Yeah.
it's worth it, man. So once and then it's like, how do I go back and drink that other stuff? Just can't. It's hard to do.
There's something about like the premium option.
See, Russ, you called it, man. We were like, should we talk about politics today or should we talk about technology? What should we talk about? We've gotten more user engagement on this coffee segment than we got on all the political crap that we talked about the last few weeks.
Yeah. Well, I think people tend to get kind of filled up with their politics just because everyone's screeching at them, from every direction. And I don't know how many people are screeching at you over coffee. Like,
They're not.
Have
and
a
if
good
they
time.
are,
Like,
it's like, bro,
drink coffee.
just have a cup of coffee. Like, calm down.
It's cool. Put some
Tranquilo.
ice cream in it.
Yeah.
Put some THC in it. It's all good.
So I saw. I was. As you know, I've been messing around with. Oh, see, Lisa's a badass.
Monk fruit. Oh,
Look at that.
You went in for the cool artificial sweetener. I mean, it's not even artificial. It's the low calorie sweetener.
This is really good. And butter, I hear. It's funny. My friend George used to do this. He would take like literal butter, like full fat butter, and like
Kerrygold.
Drop it in there and stir it up
with the chopsticks.
And it's kind of funny, dude. I mean, like when he first showed, I was, we were at this conference and he had this little kit, he's like making it. I'm like, what are you, that's disgusting. I can't believe you're doing that. It's gross. He's like, have a sip. And I shut up after that. I was like, this is good. I mean, I never would have thought to do that. And apparently it's got like so many health benefits and like unclogs your arteries and I don't know, whatever. Maybe it clogs your arteries, but that's something else, right? Whatever. I'm not a doctor. Don't listen to
me. It has all the normal health benefits of butter. And doctors have been telling us for years that we need to have more in our diets. So there you go. Here's a quick way to supplement your butter.
So speaking of technology and politics, it's just I don't know why this. I was literally, so as you know, I've been experimenting with Linux, and I have. So I have. Right now we're doing this podcast. I'm on my Windows computer that you actually helped, that you built for me. Which I appreciate. So you built this box back in 2017, I want to say.
Oh, it was before that.
Really? Okay. So this is a 10-year-old box.
You've upgraded it several times since.
But it was a component style, like the way for those of you guys that are watching that don't know, like Russell and I actually, our dad was a computer consultant, and he started his business in the 80s, 87, I think, is when he opened his doors. Nobody had computers back then, and so we would build. I think I was I was 12. You were like 9.
9, yeah.
And we were building computers. We go to CompUSA or whatever, buy like back then you had hard drives that were huge, and they were like 10 megabyte hard drives or whatever. They were massive storage units, 30 megabytes. 30 megabytes. We partitioned a 30 megabyte hard drive into 3 pieces, so that each of us had like I think 7 megabytes of space, 10 megs. Yeah. And it was
and Brian always stuffed his full of games, and he was always complaining that he ran out of space. And my entire 10 megabyte partition was a C compiler and an integrated development environment. Like, what are you doing on it? Are you playing games? I'm like, I'm programming.
I'm compiling over here, man.
I'm compiling.
Yeah, I'm compiling. I had basic. I think I had C on there. And then
Did you ever get into Turbo Pascal? Was that ever your thing?
I never did Pascal. No, I never did COBOL. Which interestingly, there was a story about COBOL this week, which I thought I was like, dude, how are we having a story about COBOL in the news? But also a political story. But it was just crazy. I'm like, how does politics get involved with COBOL?
The lords of COBOL.
Right. But anyway, so I've been experimenting with this Linux box, and I've tried all these different distributions. I've learned so much over the last 3 or 4 weeks. Kind of my hobby at night, just tinkering. And but in all of this stuff, like downloading browsers and just trying different stuff, I came across this extension that everybody can get. It's in the if you use Chrome, if you use Firefox, if you use Windows Edge, Microsoft Edge, whatever. It's an extension that's called, I can't remember what it's called. It's like No Trump, I think is what the extension is called. And basically what it'll do is it will, any news story, any link, any article that mentions Donald Trump at all, it just won't return those results to you. And
You can't even see it.
yeah, it just because it's so much noise, and even for people who like him, it's like, man, this is a little exhausting, right?
I don't want
Because
any more.
I can't, and somebody made this comment to me a few months ago, and I was like, man, this is probably the most interesting comment I've heard in a long time. It was like, so we had the industrial age, right? When the commodity of the day, like what people would, what is building insane value is building processes, right?
Yeah.
Assembly
Factories.
line, right? Exactly. And then you have supply chain revolution. Then you have the information age. We're now in what they are calling the attention economy, which I think is so great, because it's like, if you can command people's attention, then you can create ridiculous amounts of wealth, as long as you know how to convert it, right? So like, got your attention, now buy this product, now get involved in this campaign, now whatever, and people want to follow, whether it's the Instagram influencers, whatever, it's the attention economy. And that guy, for better or worse, like, he knows how to get people's attention. I mean, like,
very good at it.
He'll say 3 or 4 things a day that'll just get him back in the headlines again. And it's like some, just ridiculous stuff. The last week, in preparation for the show, I was like, man, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about this. And anyway, when I ran across that extension, I downloaded it, tried it. Oh, it's amazing. The internet is such a quiet place. Without that, like, it's just it's so peaceful. It's like, oh, this is interesting. Here's a story about a cat in a tree, and here's a story about, just, it's fascinating.
I had an experience kind of like that. So I'm a big fan of Reddit. Reddit's my favorite social media site.
I got into it last year, and you've been on me forever. And I finally was like, okay, I'm going to get in. Now I love it. I just like, how do I live with this? Yeah.
And the neat part about it is that it's subdivided into communities, these subreddits. And so, there's some default ones, like if you want just like a feed of things, and it would be an experience kind of like X, but with longer discussions and stuff, threads and stuff. But the best way to do it is to go through and curate like what kind of stuff you want to see. And for a while, I was into all of the stuff, like, I was philosophy, politics, American politics, Texas, all the stuff, technology, everything. And it just became so much noise and like people kind of yelling at each other and stuff, that I just started trimming out. Like anytime that I would look at a thing and it was highly upvoted and it was just sort of outrage inducing,
garbage,
I would just unsub from that subreddit. Like, no. It's like, if it's one thing if it was like, oh, this was controversial, there's a lot of up and down votes, like, okay, whatever. But it's like, if everybody's like, yes, finally someone talking about the truth, and we're like, I'm done. And it's amazing. Like my subreddits got smaller and smaller and smaller until it's like cool hobbyist communities, various things that I'm into, which I'll be in for a little bit, and then I'm like, I think I've learned everything I need to learn from that group, and unclick, and it has been so nice. And like the idea of this sort of customizable experience. Blue Sky has something like this too. So there's tons of different feeds in Blue Sky, and all the crazy stuff is in the politics one. But if you're like, I don't want to look at that, I want to look at, cat pictures or inspiring stories or landscape photography, just get on that feed. Just get on the feed that's just only the ones with like smiling babies. And just scroll smiling babies for an hour. You'll feel better. It's like, it's okay.
Did you see the one that I came across last week? Is Tourons, which is a smash up of tourist and moron. I mean, you smash them together, Touron. So there's a feed on Instagram. There's a bunch of these, but the best one I think that I've seen so far is Tourons of Yellowstone, and this is just idiots that are going to Yellowstone National
like people
Park.
walking up to bears and trying to pet them and stuff.
Yes.
Sticking their face over a geyser.
There was one. Yeah, there was this one guy's walking across the salt flat where the geysers, all these geysers, and he's just walking across this field in like, cargo shorts and like a sweater or a sweatshirt, and people are yelling at him, "Get out of there!" And he's just like, and wandering, just doing his thing. And it's like, do you not understand? There's like 600-degree pressurized water under there. Like if you fell through, you would cook to death.
Yeah,
This
very
one
quickly.
this one I looked at. I don't know if I sent you the link of it. I was laughing so hard. It was this morning. This bison one. These people are walking up to this bison. There's this dude, and he's like like very close, like within not quite an arm's length, like a body length, 6 feet, 7 feet. And he's taking a picture, and
From
this
a
bison just
bison?
bison. And the person that is videoing him taking the picture is walking closer, and they get close enough to where they put their hand. You see the hand come out and kind of pet the nose of the bison, and the bison starts doing this, like just kind of shaking his head, like it's almost like when you get like you see a horse get a fly laying on its nose and they kind of shake their head to get the fly off. But it's like it's also kind of menacing because the bison's head is like down, and he's like, oh,
There's horns
and the
there.
dude just keeps like kind of coming after him, and so the bison just kind of just does this, and the camera goes, and and then you hear the other dude go, oh, and I'm like,
Does it get just tossed in
it's
the air, basically?
yeah, well, yeah, I don't know, I didn't see the because it just cuts, the video cuts, but it was in this super cut of bison mishaps, right? And so that right after that, there's another one where these people are like kind of standing around this bison. They're like, hey, and this lady turns her back to take a selfie, like, hey, here I am with the bison, right?
I would
And
would
this
not
and
do
this
that.
bison just charges her while the minute her back is turned, and she's kind of getting it, so she doesn't see. And finally, when she does see, she's like, "Oh snap!" like that. And then whoever's taking the video is far away, but this bison just picks her up and flips her like
Yeah.
a good 15 feet in the air. And I'm like, these people are idiots. Like no
Like, do
respect for
you
wildlife. Like,
realize what this is that you're next to? Like,
right. There's one where these kids
no.
they come up to this female elk. Okay, so a male
Mhm.
elk has this massive thing, but a female
Yeah.
not so much. But it's still tall. Like their shoulders are as tall as your shoulder. And
Mhm.
then over, and this mom is like, "Oh, kids, look how cute! Go pet it." And the kids start walking up towards it, and somebody else is like, "Oh no, no, I wouldn't do that." Whoever's filming it, "Oh no, 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 don't do that."
Mm-mm,
And then the
mm-mm.
kids are kind of like, yeah, like the kids are smarter than the mom. She's like, "No, go ahead, go ahead, be here,
It's
be
fine.
no, 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 I don't think so." Good.
The kids bailed before the mom did.
Yeah, so I recommend it to everybody. Tour-ons of Yellowstone. Go check it out on Instagram. It is don't fall in the rabbit hole though, because it is deep.
Tourons.
Tour-ons.
Tourons. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Talking about stupid people, I saw an article today.
Great
Let me see.
segue.
No, well, it's just, and I hate these kind of things because it's all the whole, you know, Gen Z are stupid, stuff.
Oh, but they're not though. This is smart kids in Gen Z.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I mean, that's what I'm saying. I usually avoid this kind of thing, but
I'm real sensitive about just myself. I'm afraid of turning into like this, grumpy old man type of thing. It's like, these kids today, whatever. I just so I'm a little bit.
yeah. No, I agree, and that's why I normally don't like these kinds of things. Ah, yes, here it is.
Yes.
Okay, so I just want to read a couple paragraphs from this. So they're talking about Gen Z faces a difficult labor market due to AI, okay, but then also their own bad habits, okay. So
Such as.
here we go. U.S. employers report that they are increasingly reluctant to hire Gen Z labor, and this includes Gen Z age hiring representatives also who don't want to hire their own. So it's like it's not the older people. It's like no,
It's themselves. They're
they're
prejudiced
like
against
no,
themselves.
we don't want any more of us either. So here says the recruitment process has apparently been grueling for many companies that are relying increasingly on AI to process resumes. What they did not expect was for Gen Z workers to also use AI as a tool for supercharging the amount of applications they send out. Employers now say AI might be complicating the hiring process, with savvy Gen Z exploiting the tech to better misrepresent their qualifications and apply to jobs randomly through automation. Now, here's where it gets funny. This dynamic has created an environment of ghost applicants. Companies offer positions to Gen Z applicants, which are automatically accepted, only to discover that the person is no longer looking. Sometimes the position is filled, the employee is processed, only for the worker to never show up.
Wow.
AI and online hiring has allowed Gen Z to send out resumes by the thousands and gather as many potential offers as possible, then sift through those offers and accept the one they prefer while never following up on the flurry of AI-generated applications they fired into the ether. Companies say the time they have to spend on sorting job applicants has skyrocketed in the past few years, with over 80% of hiring managers saying they will be rejecting AI-generated applications outright. Well, good luck detecting them.
Figuring out which one is which, exactly.
Yeah, that's the problem with that my industry is going through. There's no foolproof way to do that. So it says let's see. It says Gen Z prospects are required to now engage an employer during in-person interviews. Many struggle with social interaction. About 20% bring their parents to the interviews as a security blanket.
Come on.
Employers list unrealistic salary expectations for entry-level positions, along with a tendency to be offended without cause. Companies say bad habits of younger workers are creating a quiet but discernible shift away from Gen Z in the labor market. And here's their ones. They argue that trends like career catfishing, job ghosting, quiet quitting, and concepts like bare minimum Mondays are turning Gen Z employees radioactive.
Bare minimum Mondays. Why didn't I think of that? That's a great idea.
Yep. At least 60% say of companies are saying they're getting rid of many younger employees that were hired in the past year. Bosses pointed to Gen Z being unprofessional, unorganized, having poor communication skills. Leaders say they struggle with the latest generation's tangible challenges, including being late to work and meetings often, not wearing office-appropriate clothing, and using language appropriate for the workplace.
I feel like I'm guilty of all of those. So I don't know. maybe I belong in that generation. Well, no respect for authority, refuses to get on the program.
Yeah, so one of the things that they were talking about in this article was that, like, well, how does this work? Like, if you're just not showing up to stuff, you're like, this job doesn't really mean that much to me. I'll just do whatever until they get rid of me and just pocket the money or whatever. It's like, well, at some point you gotta eat. Like an empty stomach is.
But my folks have a full fridge and they're just right upstairs. So
exactly, and this is what they were saying, is that something like 40. Well, let me see the number. The number was amazing. 50% of Gen Z adults, that's 18 to 28, are still living at home with their parents, which is a record high. It's never been recorded. As long as they've been looking at this for over 80 years, it's never been this high. So it's like, well, you don't need the job. So it's like, why am I hustling that hard? Like,
dude, can you imagine if we tried to get away with that? I mean, mom and dad would have been like, dude, get out. Like,
get out.
Dad didn't even give me a choice. It was like, when you're 18, you're out of here.
He would have charged so much in rent. It would have probably been escalating. Like, every year the rent goes up.
Totally. Yeah,
until
totally.
Eventually you're like, I gotta move out just so I can, save some money.
Every year, dude, every day. It would have been like your daily rent is going up by 50 cents a day.
Yep.
Yeah, every year. Dad would have had like 2 weeks worth of patience for that. It's like, okay, son, it's been really great having you here. Where are you going next?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I heard you were leaving on Saturday. I am? Yeah. That's what I heard.
Yeah.
That's what they told me. That's what they told me.
Your stuff's already in the front yard.
My God.
That's one of the, I think, joys of having the immigrant parent. It's like, hey, I came here with nothing, so
good luck, bro.
About?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, it's such a sense of perspective. I mean, like, dude, like people. I mean, it's funny. I had this big business. Well, it wasn't a business setback so much. Just I had this situation where I had to come up with a lot of cash to take care of a business situation, and it really it was not comfortable. It was pretty painful, and this was a couple of years ago, and my friend Brandon told me this. It was so funny, you know, like he's one of my financial advisors, and I was like, dude, so I'm gonna have to liquidate this and this. I don't know what, this is just crazy. I can't believe this. You know, like I'm like, honestly, dude, I've been in denial that I'm gonna have to take care of this. Now I have to take care of this, and just the fact that it's here, whatever. And he's like, yeah, no, I get it, man. No, it's really tough. I'm gonna beat this for you. He's a good friend, you know him.
Yeah.
And he goes, let me ask you a question. He goes, how are you? I mean, once we make the moves we got to make, like, how are you going to take care of it? And I was like, well, I mean, what do you mean? Like, I'm gonna have to write a check, or, I mean, I don't know if they have a payment portal, but I'm probably just gonna write a check. He was like, okay. He's like, so have you considered the fact that if you can write a check to take care of your problem, that maybe you don't have a problem? I was like, ah, that's really good. It was really good because, I mean, it really helped me put things in perspective. And I think so many times, dude, it's like, I'm guilty of this. The kids are guilty of it, obviously. Like, I mean, dude, so many of us are guilty of this, but it's like, dude, like, you don't have cancer. You don't have, you don't have, you're not bipolar. You're not medicated. You're not, like, there's all these different things. You got all your limbs, all your fingers are working, a couple of your brain cells are still knocking together. Like, you probably don't have, you just don't have a problem compared to other people who actually have problems. And it's like, sometimes, like, our problems are like so big, but
Well,
then in comparison, they're just not, for the
what's
most part.
what's funny about this story is that I had a similar experience with you. So this might have been one where you gave great advice earlier that you needed to have handed back to you in the future. But this was probably like 15 years ago. I was I can't remember what it was. I was talking about something like this was a big issue, and I just didn't know what to do about it or whatever. And you said something like, and it might not have even registered that you had said it, but you said something like, well, but that's something that can be solved with money.
I
You
do
know?
say that. I say that a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, so you can
It
sell
was
that with
like,
money? Perfect.
yeah, is that really worth like losing sleep over? I mean, that's a money thing, It's like, oh, and it just it kind of clicked for me a little bit, like, oh yeah, that's something you can solve with money. Like the really
Yeah,
really nasty problems that people have can't be. Like you would give
that's
anything
right.
to be able to solve them with money.
Right. Right.
And
Exactly. Even money you don't have, because I can, borrow it,
yeah,
steal it, whatever, but like, yeah, but if you can't fix it with money, I mean, then you have a real problem, right? Like,
yeah.
whatever. I just think it's amazing, dude, because I was talking to a friend of mine about something a few months ago. I don't want to get into all the details, but basically, it was like, okay, you have this amount of money in your bank account, let's say, right? Now that's money that you have never seen, right? Because it got direct deposited there, right? And you're
You didn't
never going,
take it in a suitcase to
you,
the
you never,
bank.
you never got paid anything, right? Like somebody made to click some keys on a keyboard, and some numbers changed in this account, and they're not even real numbers. Like they're pixels on a screen. Like I look at the screen, these pixels are black, these pixels are white, and because the
Hmm.
pixels are situated like this, I
I'm
feel
gonna
really
freak out.
good. I feel really good, But now the lights have changed, and now I'm stressed out. But now the lights
The
have changed
pixels,
again,
man. The
and I feel like
pixels.
a winner. But now the lights have changed, and I feel like an absolute failure. And now the lights changed again, and I feel and and I'm like, this is. I mean, it really is such a bizarre like life that we're living when the way that you feel, even about who you are and your ability to perform in the world and whatever, is dictated by the flashing lights. Like it's
Oh yeah.
crazy, but
Yeah.
that's what it is for a lot of people. I mean,
Oh,
including myself. I mean, you get sucked into it. It's like you're in the matrix, and the minute you're like, dude, these are just lights on a screen. Like it really gives you a lot of freedom, To,
I, I mean, I'm totally with you there, and it's amazing how much like the lights on the screen thing get into all sorts of stuff. Um, like a few years ago, well, I guess it was about a year and a half ago, I decided I was going to like finally, lose some weight, and So, like any normal person, you track that stuff. And so you're sitting on the scale and you write it down or whatever. And as I get lighter and lighter, and I was maintained really healthy, not healthy, but real active lifestyle. So it wasn't like I was, just sort of wasting away. It was, it was kind of doing something with it. And I just felt amazing. Like I would just kind of jump out of bed, and I could, the whole thing where people complain about, like, well, in your middle age, you bend over to get something, like, it's like, I'm not
I'm not
feeling any of
feeling
that
any of
stuff.
that.
Yeah,
Right.
I feel awesome,
Right.
and I look better. My clothes are fitting differently. I wound up having to like buy new clothes that, and it's not just like the different size, but like, well, before I was wearing this cut, but now I'm wearing this cut, and it's like, it's just different and wonderful. And I remember one day I had big bowl of ramen with the girls, and ramen is like a salt bomb. Like it is so salty, and so of
Sodium,
course,
baby. Yeah.
all of, and the MSG and everything, and so all of the tissues in your body are like moisture. They just draw it all in, and so I step on the scale the next day, and it's like 5 pounds heavier, and the whole day I'm just like,
Depressed. Yeah.
stop being fat, What's and but the thing is, like, I felt the same, I
Right.
looked the same, everything was the same,
But this
but
number had changed.
the
Yeah, the
pixels,
pixels.
and now I'm like, I'm so disappointed with myself. I'm like, for having a bowl of ramen with your kids, like,
Yeah.
so stupid. It's like it
Totally.
wasn't even like, well, I really blew out my calorie budget. I had 15 pieces of cake. It's like, no, you had a bowl of ramen for dinner that you could have had something else and it would have been the same.
But I think too,
But the
it
pixels.
it translates across like so many areas, like maybe veering back into politics for a minute, right? Like I know so many people who were on the right, for example, who are just like totally just angry and upset and the direction of the country. I can't believe this is happening. Da da da. And then the election happens. My guy got in, whatever, and now it's like all of a sudden, dude, there's so much. America's back, and we could breathe again, and da 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 da. And
Like,
it's
I still just paid $5 for eggs, but it's different.
freedom. But it's different now because it's all gonna change, and you can already feel it. You can already feel it. I mean, just feel it. Just different, And then the same in reverse. It's like, I've got friends on the left that are like, man, everything was great, and now it's disaster, and they're tearing down everything, and da da da. It's like, bro, nothing has changed for
For you.
for you. I mean, yeah, things are changing out there, but it's not like, I was watching, and just a shift in perspective, right? Like I was watching this, oh, who was it? Some comedian, a black guy, but he was talking about a big Trump guy, and it was a girl in the audience who was like, you keep saying that, that they're going to make America great again, and I just want to know, like, brother to sister here, like, when was America ever great for us, black people? And he's like, right now. And she's like, really? It's never been great for me. He's like, what are you talking about? He goes, you're looking good. You dress good. Your nails are done. You got a nice bag. He's like, what is that? Is that Hermes? You got a nice bag, girl. You're looking good. You're here. We're talking. Like, you got a cup of coffee. He's like, what's bad about it? And it's so funny, because she was just like, and of course that's not to discount anybody's situation, but it's just like, it's, man, this working with the kids right now, and they just got their reports cards, and I really debated internally, like, how do I talk about these report cards, right? Because when I talked to Brooks, I talked to him first, and then I talked to Kyler. When I was talking to Brooks, you could tell he just was like, oh, I'm not doing good, like, but almost like, I'm trying. I thought I was doing good, and it's like, no, but this paper says, and where you are, and it was like, I had to literally pause and go, okay, look, forget about this paper, okay? You're doing great on a lot of things, and you need to work on a lot of things, just like me. I'm doing good on some things. I need work on a lot of things, right? Like, I tell you all the time, like, oh man, I could have done that better, right? We're all learning. And
Yeah.
so all this paper does is show us where the opportunities for the best, advances you can make. Like if I spend my time focusing on this, it's going to bring all of my scores up, which is good, like in terms of
Mhm.
what I'm going to learn, right? That's all. That's all it is, man. Like you're doing great, and here's the areas to focus on. But it's hard to like,
It's like if I'm going to spend double the time to go from a 95 to a 97, or I could spend double the time to take this other thing from a 75 to an 85.
or a 30 to a 60.
Yeah. Or
Yeah,
whatever, right? But
whatever.
like, hey, where's the low hanging fruit? Where can I put my
Right,
effort and it'll pay off the most?
right. And it's fascinating because like watching these little ones, like grow up, and it's like they come into their own in so many ways, and then in other ways it's like, man, how do I wish that somebody had talked to me about this, and then you get a chance to kind of do that. It's kind of it's fun.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, the grade thing. I'll tell you, I've got students. I feel like they've been brainwashed by the grades. Like that,
Mm.
the number tells them that they're a good person, and that the other people in the class are not as good as they are, and this is kind of how they know, and it's the number. It's like when I'll do this thing where I'll say like, oh, you made an A, you made an A, and I'll record it as a 95, and they'll be like,
Why
well,
don't I get 100?
yeah, like what could I have done to make it better? And I was like, well, nothing. 95 is going to average into an A, right? So it's like you're on track for an A at 95. If you made a B, I would put an 85, and then you notice when they average together, you still have a 90. So like that's really good. They're like, yeah, but I really want a higher grade than that. It's like, well, the highest grade I can give you in this class is an A. So there's no difference at all between an 89.6 and a 99.6. They're the
But
same.
doesn't one of them have a plus and one of them have a minus? Because I
No,
don't like minuses. They just make me
no,
feel.
there's nothing. It's literally just an A. But that number is so meaningful to them because
Oh,
it's
because isn't it a 3.6 versus a 3.8 versus a 3.9? Like cum
no,
laude,
because
magna cum laude.
no, at the end of the semester,
I want
I'm
the
putting
ribbon.
in
The ribbon
no,
that,
but
that,
look,
that
but
has the
look,
colors. It has
but
the
look,
colors.
at the end of the semester when I put the grade in, it's going to be an A, B, C, D, or F. That's it. I can't give them like there's no number. So so literally like a 92 and a 96 are exactly the same. On the
Mm.
transcript, there is no difference. So
So what brings the GPA down? I'm being educated. So the GPA is
oh,
brought down because of my combinations of A's, B's, and C's and D's.
correct. Those
Okay.
all get averaged together, right? So if you had an A, if you have two classes, let's say one's an A, one's a B, so you get 4 and 3. So now you have a 3.5,
3.5. I gotcha.
right? But in terms of that class, which is the only thing I'm responsible for, like I don't have their GPA in my hands. I just have this one class,
Right, right.
and so
That's
this
your
one class,
GPA is your problem, right?
your
I
deals
can't.
are yeah,
I hear you. Yeah, yeah. You can't give them more than an A. The most you
no,
could help them would be an A. So an 89.6 is.
yeah. And
You
so
get
like
more than
when
that, you study too hard.
yeah, well, that's what I tell them. It's like, hey, they're like, well, I really want to bring up my 93. I'm like, you shouldn't. You should do other things, like to pick another class that you're having a hard time with, or a night that you would study. Just like lean back, listen to some music, maybe journal, take a nap, go to bed early. Because like you don't get any benefits from going above a 93. Like you gain nothing. You're just
That's
using your
interesting.
time. I mean, unless you just love the material and you're like, oh, I just want to study this. It's so interesting to me. It's like, well, then great. I mean, do
Hmm.
whatever brings you pleasure. Like that's fine. But you don't have to for me. Like I'm
I wonder,
satisfied.
does law school work that way? I wonder what if people they stress out about being top of their class and all this other kind of stuff.
Well, so different fields have something where like you're ranked according to your position in the class with the rest of them.
Hmm.
And so depending on I don't know if law school is done like within the class, like you're ranked within the class, or you're ranked as your GPA overall. Um, I
What,
don't
what's
know.
your what's your philosophy on grading on a curve? Because I know people have different philosophies on this, but like the way I had it explained to me was professors who grade on a curve, let's say the very best student in your class, objectively, compared to the students you had, let's say over the last 10 years, that student really is a C student in your class, but they're the absolute best. So they're getting an A if you grade on the curve, right? And so then everybody else is graded relative to the very best person in the class, right? So your worst person gets an F, your best person gets an A, everybody else is some very deviation from that in the curve, right? Versus an objective. What's your feeling on that?
Are you okay with giving an F to someone who did better than the C people from last year, but just
Well,
they
so
were
this is my question.
Well, because it seems like you have two different versions of a curve. You've got sort of the bonus points version of the curve, where it's like, hey, whatever the best student was, that's an A. Everything gets scaled up accordingly. So that's one. The other one is
so you can only be helped by the curve, not hurt by the curve.
right. So like you've got the curve buster out at the front, and then everybody else, like further ahead they are, the fewer bonus points everybody else gets. Because like, let's say they're making 97, it's like, well, now that's 100, but that means that we only get 3 points for everybody else, right?
I see.
So
okay.
So like you want to be the curve buster and sandbag everybody else behind you, you know.
In the law school example, right? Yeah, because I'm trying to screw them over. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
The other kind of curve is like the standard distribution one, where you're like, here, there's this many allocated A, B, C, whatever, for the number of students here. And so at the end of the semester, I'm going to just put you all in a line according to your average. And then the top X number get this, then the next group, and then the next group, and the next group. And so 50% of the students make a C. And it just really doesn't matter what their score is. It just matters where they fall in a line comparison with everybody else.
Well, so what's your philosophy? Like, how do you, are there teachers that do that? The second example?
Yeah, that exists. It really depends on what the class is for. So if the class is a weed out class, it's like, we're here to cull the weak, then that's what you do.
You use the second.
How many do you want to cull? So
you start with your objective of how many of these people do I need to leave behind, and then we're going to create a curve to where they select themselves out,
right,
based on the performance of this cohort, basically.
Right. And you have some programs out there where like there's just extremely competitive. So it's like, okay, you're admitted to the university, but you're not admitted to the nursing program. Like you got to earn that. You're going to earn that over your first year and a half, and then you can apply, and then you're relative to everybody else that is also applying, both in the school and outside, because we have a limited number of spots.
Because there's only, so let's say 1,000 spots in the school, and so, or whatever the number is, and so 100 spots, and so we have to take the 100 best. Yeah,
we're going to take the 100 best, and you're going to have to compete against everybody else. And we think we can give you a competitive advantage by being here. You know, we'll get you better prepared than, say, some random, you know,
community college person. Right.
But you're still going to have to compete against them. And so we want those first couple classes to be as hard as absolutely possible. And maybe the goal is to fail half of the students so that they can pick another major. Because why else keep them around for 3 semesters if they're not going to make it? You know, let's get you into something else where you will succeed, instead of just bash your head against the wall trying to break into the nursing program. And
like, or if you're really committed
for 7 years, you know,
or if you're really committed to nursing, maybe do it somewhere else where they have more availability.
Yeah. So
that's interesting.
So that might be one reason to do that. Another one, you might have.
I think it's so interesting, as you're formulating that thought, that because my instinct when I was asking you the question was like, I was curious your philosophy about it, and then like, because obviously one of these is good and one of these is not so good, but actually they're just tools in the toolbox, and so so a screwdriver is no good if I need a hammer, but a hammer is no good if I need a screwdriver. So it's interesting. So just pick your tool and start with what's our objective, and then work backwards from there.
Yep. And when it comes to screwdrivers, like, are you dating Philip or Alan? You know.
I was like Alan. He seems more versatile.
Alan's fun. But there's other things too. Like, let's say the end of your training, your degree program, or whatever, is a licensure exam. So like, let's say you want to become a teacher, and there's an exam that you're going to have to sit for and pass on
Well, then it'd be
several
super
different.
easy because you don't need to have a license to be a teacher, I don't think, anymore.
Well, for a public school system, you do. Anyway,
I don't think so. I don't think so. Not here.
well, charter schools you don't, but in public school system, you need to be either licensed or on your way to being licensed.
Interesting.
But I mean, if you don't like that one, if you want to be a licensed professional counselor, you have to sit for a licensure exam for that. And there's a lot of stuff on that exam.
Insurance license.
Yeah. So something like that is that, well, curve kind of doesn't mean anything. It's like, so what if you pass or don't pass? Really, what matters is, do you pass the licensure exam?
Right.
Same thing for the CPA exam. So then my goal for the class is to make sure you're ready for that.
Passes, yeah.
And so then passing or not passing is just like, did you learn the things necessary to get you the information you need to pass the licensure? And so then, yeah, then it's like the curve is kind of pointless. Like if I curve the class, then I've sort of told you false information.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make any sense. Now, you've got other ones where performance is really not as necessary. So like, let's say you were in a I don't want to like make people angry. Let's say,
oh, come on.
yeah.
As the camera zooms in on your face, did you see it zoomed in? Like, that AI camera's good, but
yeah.
It?
Like let's say you were in a class that was primarily about reading poetry, and maybe you write a paper or two at the end, or do some other stuff. And for something like that, like, are we hoping to weed out students? It's like, we got to make sure that someone who isn't the absolute best at poetry doesn't make it through this program. It's like, probably not.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to reward people based on an absolute standard, where it's like, hey, the
Can there
grade's
be
the
an
grade?
absolute standard in poetry? Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe then a curve, maybe just like a bonus points curve or just a relative curve makes really good sense then. So I think it just depends. Like, what do you want the class to do? And here's the thing, what do you want the class to do? I think is really a question for the student. And this is something that a lot of them don't understand. So I was the class right before I have a really big class. Right before it is a pre-law class. And pre-law prof is tough as nails.
Okay.
He's longtime litigator, like the judgments and millions and millions and millions of dollars. He's deeply connected to Texas politics and stuff. Is like Mr. Law Prof. And I was overhearing a conversation as I'm kind of getting set up. He's leaving, and he's talking with one of his students, and he was telling a student, and he's like, "No, we're not going to reschedule the exam for you, because I'm not engaged in a customer service oriented endeavor, and this is when the test is, and if you don't show up, then you don't show up." And
just like court. Just like court. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So when the guy left, the students that were there were like, "Well, that seemed really harsh." I was like, well, can you imagine going to the
your students were overhearing it. Yeah. Well, you don't understand, Judge, Your Honor, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
I can't make it then, and this and that, and can we reschedule it? And it's like, the judge is going to say, no, we're not going to reschedule it. Do you want me to throw the case out for your client or not?
Right.
And so it's like, he's trying to get them into that mindset of like, stuff is turned in early unless it's strategically valuable to turn it in exactly at the deadline to give the other guys less time to respond, whatever. But like, you're not thinking to yourself like, well, I need a mental health day. I don't think I can do that. It's like, well,
tough.
It's too bad. And so it's like, okay, as a student, if you're going into law, you want a professor that will do that.
That's right. Because
it doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve your interests for him to treat you differently than the way the judge would. Right. So it's like, as a student, and most of them are not thinking this. They're just thinking like, well, this is the next thing. I take classes. I make a grade. I have a GPA. You know, when I graduate, I get a, you know, we go to the Mexican food restaurant and I get like I have to wear the sombrero or something, you know? And it's like,
my folks will be proud of me.
my folks will be proud of me. Yeah. And it's like, no, you have to be thinking about this. Like, I need to get ready for what my profession is going to require of me. And so I need you, Mr. Professor, you institution, to get me ready. And like, you would demand to be treated that way. Because like, you don't want to get soft on your way to law school. You know?
Well, I think you bring up a good point, dude. I think so few things really prepare you for real life, you know? And a lot of times the things that do prepare you for real life are the things that you're like most anxious to avoid, you know? Um, you know, I was talking to, we were talking about earlier on the Gen Z thing about, you know, right? And it's like, what did you say? Bare minimum Mondays. And it's like, in a lot of ways, if I was a kid growing up now, if I was Gen Z, if I was in that age group, um, I would hope that I would have the perspective of that's good, like, because it makes it so much easier for me to compete. You know, like you don't have to be like if you came up in a generation.
You should do bare minimum Mondays.
Absolutely.
I will not be joining you, but you should.
You should. I wish I could, but I can't. But you guys gotta have fun because I got something. I have to work. That's great. But like that, yeah. To me, it's like, dude, it's like, wow, so much easier to distinguish yourself when you're competing against knuckleheads,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, yeah.
Well,
what did Dad always say? He would say something about. He would always say something like, "Don't let the turkeys get you down," you know. And he would say, "Well, son, how do you expect to fly with the eagles if you're hanging out with a bunch of turkeys?" But it was, and I was like, "Oh, come on, Dad," you know. But man, he was so right. It's like, yeah, like you're going to be tempted to like drop your expectations of yourself based on what you see out there, right? It's like, oh, I only have to do this much to be that much better, you know. So that's where I what you kind of worry about looking forward if I was going to turn into that grumpy old man, you know, kind of like, man, you know, what is it coming to if like the you know, I do this much better so that I can outcompete all these people, but like there's not really a pursuit of excellence anymore. It's just a pursuit of, it's like the bear in the woods, right? Like I don't have to be faster than that bear. I just have to be faster than you, you know? Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing is I don't fault like all the stuff that people complain about Gen Z. Like I don't fault these guys. Like I really like Gen Z. I much rather hang out with my Gen Z students than my millennial students back when the millennials were a thing. They were just sort of irrationally optimistic about everything and, you know, tried to figure out ways to like put affirmations on stuff like, you're amazing, you know, everything is amazing. And like the Gen Z students, they don't have time for nonsense like that.
Right.
You know, like, I like these guys. They're very practical. They're really good at finding efficiencies. And it's just, okay, those are all useful stuff. Like those things will be channeled into something good for them and for society. It's just, I think people were expecting it to happen sooner. It's like, well, it's going to take them a little bit longer to find their footing, but
well, it's funny you were talking. It's funny you were talking about that. You were talking about AI and stuff, and I was talking to a friend of mine, and you know, I have one of the apps that I use is called Duolingo. I'm trying to learn some Spanish, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm on this.
How long is your streak?
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say. So I'm on a streak right now of 676 days.
Ooh.
In a row of taking at least one Spanish lesson, right? And you can, you know, you can buy these things called streak freezes, you know. So like if you miss a day or whatever, it'll cost you a streak freeze, and if you don't have one equipped, then like your streak's over, you know. So it's still an exercise to like of diligence, basically. To
wait, they're selling that is some indulgence level stuff.
Well, I was going to say, dude, the
Catholics get you out of purgatory.
That's right. Yeah. So, hey, dude, learn from the best. But anyway, so I was talking to this lady, this girlfriend of mine. She has a son or a nephew, I can't remember now, who's like a teenager, uh, 17, 18-ish, and they were on they went on a trip somewhere, and he was concerned that he was going to lose his streak
Oh,
because
okay.
may not have connectivity, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
So this kid got on his computer and wrote a Python script to do his Duolingo for him every day while he was gone. And I was like,
Okay.
I didn't even think you could do that. So then I was like,
You
it's
should
so
sell
funny.
that. You
Well,
can
it's
make
so
money
funny
with
because
that.
I was like, dude, it's so funny. I have YouTube. I can learn Python. I want to figure this out. Like, it is so funny. I've heard Python for years, and people, oh, I wrote a Python script for this and that. I didn't know the first thing about it, but I started digging into. After I heard that story, this is about a week ago. After I heard that story, I started digging into it. I'm like, dude, it's crazy what'll motivate you. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I can write a Python script to automate my Duolingo so that I never miss a streak freeze.
And well, and it's what's interesting is that it's like by doing that, like a outside observer might say, I've decided to stop learning Spanish and I would like to learn Python instead.
Right, right,
I'm like,
right.
okay,
But man,
that's that's
I
what you
got
want to transition. That's great.
I love that. You're talking about Gen Z being like kind of searching for efficiencies and things like that. It's like the idea that these millennials have enough time, or not millennials, Gen Zers have enough time to figure out how to get AI to submit all these resumes for them. Going back to your earlier story,
Thousands.
it's like, man, that's true. That itself is a marketable skill. Like maybe you're just going after the wrong jobs. That's I would hire that person. Like, hey, can you figure out how to use AI to do this in my business? Because there's so many things like that are like completely repetitive and you know garbage tasks that have to be done.
Automated away.
Yeah.
By the way, if you're really interested in learning Python, I have two things for you.
Okay.
So one is a web platform called Code Academy, and
Okay.
they're not the sponsor. They're not a sponsor. It's just I
Right.
like them.
Not
They've
affiliated.
done not affiliated anyway. There's no use our code for 10% off. Or
None
anything.
of that. Yeah. Yeah.
But Code Academy is really nice. They've got a mixture of free and paid lessons, and their basics for several different languages are quite good. And
Okay.
it's kind of I feel like for a pre-built class, it's probably one of the best that I've seen. So like when I think of like this is the way online education should be done as a pre-built thing, they're doing it the right way, my opinion. So
Cool.
they've got really nice setup for Ruby, for JavaScript. Their Python lessons are very good, and
Look at their friendly team.
yeah, if you wind up wanting to do like buying a membership on it and stuff, like some of the really advanced lessons are the ones that usually you could turn it like having basic Python skills isn't going to get you a job, but having Python skills in these certain things might. And so those things are behind a paywall. But like, hey, you want to learn some Python and kind of get your fingers dirty in it, this is a great way to do it for free. For free. And the other thing that I'd suggest is, and you're going to hate this, but AI. that and not as the way most people think about coding with AI, which is something like, if there's something you want to do, just ask the AI to write the code for you. But instead, if you kind of break this thing down into different steps, so like let's say you wanted to do a Duolingo thing, so you need to figure out a way to get a script to like click buttons, click mouse
Mm-hmm.
buttons, to maybe like what does it take to have the to keep the streak active? Like, do you have to open it? Do you have to complete a lesson? What, like, go
Yeah.
through some of the steps, and then use a chat interface to help you figure out how to do each one of those steps. So it's like, all right, I want to create a program in Python that does this. How do you do this in Python? How do you
Mm-hmm.
control a mouse? How do you do a click in Python? How do you read the screen in Python? If I want to read the screen and then turn that into text, how do I do that in Python? And basically teach yourself Python using it as like a tutor, or like you'd be an
That
apprentice.
that was actually my plan before you told me about this code monkey or code academy or whatever.
Okay.
But yeah, that was my plan, was to say, okay, let me just download a Docker here with Quan or DeepSeek or whatever, and then let it go to work.
Yeah. If you want to, if for learning something, the local models are good enough. So
They're not good.
no, they are. They are.
Oh,
Like
they are.
if you want the big cloud oriented models like Claude or whatever, if you wanted to do like a one-shot programming, so Claude, for example, I typed this out just to see if it would do it. Like, write me a Tetris clone in HTML and JavaScript. It could be run directly in the browser, and it has the next piece cut out.
Yeah, it shows you what's coming next. Yep.
And a score and all that. Let's give this some specifications. Hit enter, and it produced no edits whatsoever. I took what it put in, saved it, ran it in a web page, and it's Tetris.
No way.
Yeah. So like that kind of thing. If you want like the one-shot stuff, or people do it, one of the tests is to make Flappy Bird using Python.
Okay.
So it's like, can you give it one instruction and get a working Flappy Bird game on the other side of it? So yeah, for that kind of stuff, the big cloud models usually are pretty good. If it's something like, I want to learn this, like teach me C++, where do I start? Then something like a local running, something based on Llama or Quan or Phi, if you like Microsoft's stuff, will get you.
Well, you showed me how to install a local version on my Mac, but I ended up redoing something on there, and it ended up getting deleted. So now I have to figure out how to do it over again.
So if you want like the easiest possible interface,
yeah,
I would use GPT-4all.
Okay.
And if you want something with a little bit more, little more options, more ways to tinker with it, then I would go with LM Studio.
LM Studio.
Mm-hmm. Both of those are free, at least for personal use. I think LM Studio wants you to get a license if you're using it at work. Mm-hmm. But if it's for you to learn something or to experiment, it's unlimited free license. So,
okay, so I'm on GitHub now. So I found the GPT-4all, and then the other one is LM. Okay, I'm at lmstudio.ai, and you can download it for the Mac. Okay, got it.
Yeah, you can run those Mac, Windows, Linux, cross-platform.
And either one of those would be good enough to teach me what I'm trying to.
Oh yeah, because both those, when you install it, it'll be like, well, what model do you want to use? And there's like a full model explorer. LM Studios pulls directly from Hugging Face, which is where people upload their cutting edge stuff. So if you're like, I want to try, whichever model, IBM's Granite model, type in Granite. Here's all the different people that have published those. Pick one that'll run on your machine. Hit install, and it goes. Done. Yeah. So yeah, pick the one that you like the best and enjoy.
All right, man. Wish me luck. So
yeah, it'll be fun.
This was a good combo. We talked a lot of stuff. We didn't hit on politics too much. It's good.
We behaved ourselves.
Yeah, we still have 10 minutes to screw it up if you want, or we can give our audience the gift of time and let them rock on. But oh man, I do think I did want to ask your opinion on one of the things that went down this week, and I'm trying to remember what it is.
In the news?
Yeah, in the news.
Okay, let's do it. We got our last 10 minutes. We can do it.
Yeah. I'm having trouble remembering what it was, though. Yeah, my mind's blanking. Go ahead. No, I have my opinion about
that. J.D. Vance in Germany.
Oh, we can talk about that. That's a good one.
Well, no, I'm trying to figure out what it was that you were talking about.
It wasn't that.
Confirmation of RFK.
Oh, I remember what it was.
Okay. We get to it eventually.
Yeah. No, it was about the COBOL, when we were talking earlier about COBOL. So
yeah,
the president got up and was talking about how all these dead people were receiving Social Security. We got a 350-year-old person on here. They're older than the United States of America is, getting Social Security benefits. And it's like, dude, first of all, that doesn't make any sense. And the number of people that you said were receiving Social Security benefits, if I added all these up, are actually more than the number of people living in America. So that doesn't make any sense either. So if that's obviously, if those things are true, that's
terrible.
terrible.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I was listening to, I can't remember who it was, but they were talking about, they had these COBOL engineers, and then I went online and started looking, and there's a bunch of them. So apparently the Social Security Administration's computers are all written in COBOL. And apparently if you, I can't remember if you don't list the year that somebody's born or something else, that particular field defaults to like 1857 or something like that. I can't remember what the actual, I don't know why COBOL would work that way, but anyway, they're like that really, that you have what you have here is people that don't understand the underlying technology. They do understand how to extract data out of it. They've extracted the data out. They've run their data mapping on it. They've come up with this report, but they don't understand the underlying technology, the limitations of the technology that they're drawing from, which is a typical complaint with people, for decades. Middleware, people writing crystal reports, trying to export stuff from one system into another. It's like, how do I translate this? So I'm just, I think what overwhelmingly was kind of like unfortunate about, I think that whole cycle for me was like, man, there are so many opportunities here to get some wins in terms of, saving some money, et cetera. And it's like, why wouldn't you stop to like maybe educate yourself a little bit on before you go out and make an idiot of yourself,
So interesting that it was done in COBOL. So I don't know that that's a fact. A lot of the U.S. banking systems are done in COBOL, and part of the reason for that is that they were written at a time when software development was extremely high quality. So you had people that were programming these things that were really, really concerned that they could verify the inputs and outputs of every line. And now that is less of a concern. There's a lot more of like rapid prototyping, iteration, a lot of like software frameworks that are running underneath things. So the quality of code that's coming out now, while there's more of it and it does more things, it's lower quality as a whole. So, I mean, think about it, like if on the original systems that these things were running on, you had to account for every single bit. You had like every single processor cycle was important.
Right, because you had so few resources, you had to manage them better.
Right. And of course, at the time, it seemed like an amazing amount of resources because these were running on room-sized machines.
Right.
And they still are, because IBM has kept the mainframe business alive, selling machines that still run COBOL.
To the government, apparently.
The government and to financial institutions, the two primary groups. So since they've maintained such excellent backwards compatibility, a lot of times if a company's like, well, we already have this, this already runs, it already works, do we want to spend $500,000 rewriting it? Because we're going to spend the money to upgrade the computer. IBM is willing to sell us one that runs the exact same software and they can verify that it will run it exactly the same way, Or do we want to spend all this time and effort to rewrite it into something else and still spend the same amount of money on the hardware that we would have spent? It's like, no. And so the COBOL systems keep going. And they're not zombie systems, like they're well-maintained, good systems. So that doesn't surprise me. And I don't think that's necessarily a strike against them. And I think if you're looking at the numbers, like the truly anomalous numbers, so we found X number of 100,000 people were over 300 years old or over 200 years old. That seems to me to be like, this is some kind of glitch, data processing error. I'm not, or something that we've found out from some of the treasury stuff that Doge has uncovered is that a vast number of Treasury receipts coming through have no subject line.
To me, that was crazy.
We just have no idea what it was.
Well,
and that's the thing, is that, like, okay, I'm sure it got approved. Someone stamped it. I don't think it's people taking money out of the till, but it makes it almost impossible to audit some of this stuff. So,
well, exactly. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So I think some of these where you have like the years are like total nonsense. Some of that may just be like people not putting information in because nobody was yelling at them, where's all the info? And so it's like, I just leave it blank and this person is fine. So I think some of those like 300-year stuff, probably. The ones where you have like 120 years old, those start to look to me like the easiest explanation is that they were just never removed off of the list. And that someone out there is still getting checks from grandma. And they're not going to go tell the government to stop sending checks. Or maybe,
why would they?
Or maybe they have, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll process that. And I mean, no one's interested in processing it, and it never gets done.
Right. And there's no urgency around returning the money. So like, yeah.
Yeah. And so those, so I kind of see it as like probably several different issues happening.
Did you hear the argument that I heard somebody making on MSNBC the other day? Was like, I don't think they're taking into account the fact that if they do trim all these payments, obviously if there's improper payments, we obviously want to address that, but at scale, if we trim back all these payments, it actually could be like it could be a real hit to the economy, because all these people are used to getting this money, now they're not going to be spending it, and theoretically, the people receiving this money, they're not investing it. They're spending it on plane tickets and David Busters or whatever, and they're going to have a big hit. I was like, man, that is the dumbest argument I think I've heard at all.
I would like the money.
Yeah,
send it back to me.
So that brings me to something really interesting. So I'm going to tell you two things I saw were just very, very smart, I think. So when they said, when Trump said, I think what we're looking at is taking 20% of the money that we recover and paying that as a dividend to the taxpayers. Tax-paying units. I was like, dude, that is brilliant. And, and I think what's crazy about all of these ideas, is, and I asked a friend of mine this week. I was like, dude, I get you're upset, but are you upset in the way that, like, I'm upset when I think of a really cool invention, and then like a year later, I see somebody's gone and made what I had imagined, and I'm like, golly, I could have made that. That could have been mine. Because I just feel like, dude, that is the smartest possible thing he could have said. It's like, not only like when they're going after keep publishing, oh, here's more, and there is a fair argument to be made that, look, at this point, I think they're up to like, they're claiming 50 billion, but I think it's somewhat less than that. But whatever the number is, right? They're claiming whatever. It's like, dude, that's not even going to put a dent. You hear this all the time on the networks. That's not even going to put a dent in the federal. It's less than 1% of the entire whatever. People don't care about that. Like the average person, they're wasting because at the end of the day, we all know, like, if we're paying taxes, not everybody pays taxes. I get that, but like the vast majority of us do. And when you, as a taxpayer, who you've seen your check, here's the amount of money I'm supposed to get, and here's how much money I take home. I don't know anybody who's thrilled about the level of taxes that they're paying. Everybody feels like they're paying too much. They can't believe they pay so much, right? And that's not to count all of the people like me who own a business or do taxes, on
just
their own. And
W-2. It's just like,
even W-2 people, it's like, what is this, right? And then people that actually have to cut checks at the end of every year. It's people, we hate it. I love it in the sense that, hey, I'm happy to pay to participate in the system. Like, I say all the time, it's like insurance license is a license to print money. This is great. I'm very fortunate, right? And happy to pay my
patriotic taxes. American.
Right.
Yeah.
All that being said, it's like, holy crap, I can't believe it's this much, right? So like, I mean, they're all the same. So like when you see your money literally being lit on fire over and over and over and over again, the way that they're publicizing it, because it's just coming out in little drips. Oh, and here's some more. Here, we found this today. We found this today. It's like, I mean, yeah, people, it's very solid strategy. Instead of going after one big department, like we're going to go after defense and then have all this rigmarole before you even find out anything. It's like, we go after the low hanging fruit where it's very easy to open the books and it's like, oh, look at all this crap, basically.
Yeah.
And people are, so that's one thing. And then the second thing is that offering to give a rebate. It's like, okay, well, look, you're going to save all this money. What are you going to do with it? Well, we're going to cut spending. We have to because we're deficit spending, but we're going to take a percentage of it and refund it to the taxpayers. That's like, dude, you just won everybody who was kind of on the fence about it, like over, like,
except for me, and
no.
And here's why. So I get that, yes, it's a small percentage of the federal budget, whatever, but it's like, oh yeah, so the government has been wasting the money, and we've been able to identify now X amount of wasted dollars. And 20% of that, a fifth per taxpayer, is $5,000, which means they've stolen $25,000 from me. And so I don't want the 5. I want the 25. Because they stole it. I mean, that's the thing, is like, this isn't something where we're like, well, such and such cost more than we were expecting. The bridge, there was an budget overrun on the bridge, and it was just more. It's like, no, this is money that's just gone into the ether on stuff where, like, I mean, there's probably we're going to find people like self-dealing out of it. I mean, this is stolen money, and it's like, I don't want a fifth of my stolen money back. I want all of it back.
Yeah. But just like Zelensky, dude, you're going to have to get realistic.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I know. And that's like realistic. I said, I'm not expecting that. I don't think they're going to do the 5,000 either. I think they're floating that as a way to kind of get the American people to personalize it. Or like, hey, it's not just like, because that's the thing, is like, oh, it's a 1% out there somewhere of the federal budget. It's like, no, this is your money. And now we're going to make it like really clear, this is your money.
Well, and you remember that you're a shareholder.
Yeah.
I think that's the point. It's like, look, you're a citizen, you pay taxes, you're a shareholder. Like, this is being done in your name.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be like if I was donating money to some cause that I'm just not about, and I found out about it. Maybe let's say my wife goes behind my back and donates a bunch of money. Like, I would be pissed off. It's like, dude, that's no, and so I just think people forget, because it's like, oh, they're oh yeah, well, there the government goes again. But it's like, dude, that's your money. And I think that it's very good to hear them relentlessly talk about it. It's like, look, the citizens don't want this. The taxpayers don't want this. It's not about like what I want. It's about the people, right? It's not like, look, it's not like this was any secret. We ran on this. We talked about it every day. I had this guy on stage with me saying, this is what I'm going to have him doing. And now I have him doing it. So it's not like, I mean, if you didn't want this, you could have totally voted for the other one that says we're going to keep spending more of your money and keep, doing this and that. I mean, they were both on the table. Everybody had a fair shot to judge, and people said no, yes, at scale, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like it's a bait and switch, and I think that's it's just yesterday. I don't know if you saw, they're on a plane going somewhere, and he's like, yeah, next week we're going to go over to Fort Knox, and
we're going to see where the gold is.
We're going to see if the gold is there, because I want to see what else they're doing. Dude, it is it's so great, because it's like, dude, no wonder. Are you the one that sent me the thing where it was like the searches for criminal lawyer and stuff like that in DC are skyrocketing right now? What did you see?
Yeah, so the Google searches for criminal defense lawyer skyrocketing in DC, and also if you look at Zillow in Alexandria, Virginia, which a lot of these government employees live, everything is for sale. It's like fire sale on homes. People are bailing out,
getting out of town. You saw the head of Social Security a couple days ago resigned, right? She said, now, she's couching it like, oh, I'm resigning out of in principle. I said, I'm not down with them having access to the government, people's records, da da da. It's like, look, dude, I mean, uh, I'm happy to, anybody can have my tax records. I don't care. You can have my social, you can have whatever. I mean, if you're a hacker, you already have it. It's not like I'm some private. Yeah, dude. I mean, that's ridiculous. It's like, and so now you're going to resign over it. It's like, dude, if there is a significant amount of fraud going on in Social Security, I can understand. I mean, that's a smart move. Resign and protest, and then quietly disappear. Did you see Joy Behar was arrested?
No.
Did you see that?
For what?
That just so she. What's that girl's name? Caitlin something or other. That's Trump's new press secretary.
Yeah, I can't think of her last name. Yeah.
So, so Joy Behar was saying, they were talking on The View, this is a few weeks ago, and they were like, because she's a firecracker. I mean, like her or hate her. I mean, she is that press secretary is on point, and so they were asking her where did she come from or whatever, and she's like, oh well, Trump hired her because I'm sure he hired her just because she's a 10, that's the only reason she got the job, because she's hot basically, and even the people on The View were like, well, we don't know that, because they've had to walk back a few things, Sunny Hostin and whatever, they've come after her legally or whatever, right? Well, what's her name? The press secretary sued her for defamation and was like, I'm not laughing it off. Like that was crap. That's sexist. That's this and that. All of the things, right? Slapped her with this big lawsuit. She had to step off The View. All of this happened like a couple weeks ago. Well, anyway, last week, I guess she was had bought a one-way ticket to Italy, was flying out of the country, and the feds have been watching her, arrested her off the plane in the airport.
What? I'm looking this up.
I saw it on. Where did I see that?
Oh no! It says an AI video falsely claims.
It's fake. That's awesome.
Story narrated in the viral video is written by AI according to online detection tools. There's been no actual news reports of any such lawsuit. Even the lawsuit.
Even the lawsuit.
Behar was attempting to board a one-way flight to Italy. Her ancestral homeland was also generated with AI tools. You got had, dude.
I got catfish, bro. I got catfish.
I got
catfish. They got me.
No, AI.
That's funny. So there's no lawsuit either?
It doesn't look like it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Dude, this stuff is all over the place. I'm telling you, I need that extension back.
No, there's no.
Wah, wah, wah.
No lawsuit even. No lawsuit. I mean, I don't think it's something
that's a good story.
I think
it's a good story.
I do think though it's like it is a weird thing to say. Like, you usually think of like, a sisterhood looking out for each other. Even if you disagree with someone, I mean, it's not exactly a glass ceiling being broken, but I mean, isn't she the youngest press secretary in history? So to say, to question a woman's qualifications for her work because she's a woman, man, that just doesn't seem very feminist to me.
Well, did she say those things about her now? Like, yeah.
So that apparently is real. Because this was in.
It's so funny
January
too, because
30.
The reason it's so believable is because they've had all these real legal challenges come up. Especially the one, whatever her name is, Sunny Hostin, the Hispanic one. So she said a bunch of stuff on there that they didn't have to walk back, and she's the one that walked it back. They're like, okay, here's your statement. You're reading this to the camera, and she's like, so this morning, we're now announcing da da da, and she just read it like it's kind of funny.
This
is not a true story. Well, this has me wondering now about the what's it? Justin Baldoni and what's her name? Blake Lively. That whole lawsuit that's going on with Ryan Reynolds. Have you been following that one?
I think that lawsuit is happening. That's a real lawsuit.
Okay, that one's real.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's dangerous
think
times out
so.
there. The internet, guys. Be careful. You
Can't
could
believe
you could
everything
make
you
yourself
read.
look like an idiot on a live feed on the internet for millions of people to watch. It could happen to you.
No.
Dude, it's so crazy. Yeah, that video, but it's not just one video. There's like a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
them.
That's how it works, man. That's how they get you.
It's false.
Hey, dude, I gotta go
Behar
cook
was
dinner.
actually working on her play and recovering from illness. This incident shows how AI misinformation spreads through clickbait. I tell you
That's
what,
why we
dude.
need more censorship.
So we need more censorship. We need controls. People will believe anything. You heard it here first.
You heard it here first. All right.
Oh man. All right, brother.
Until next
I'll
week.
catch you next week. Hopefully with more factual stuff. See
Yeah.
ya.